there next week.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, it's a good story. Okay. So let's get started. Hello, welcome all the Finnish readers of Jenny Colgan to this interview with Jenny. I'm Pauliina Pietilä. I'm working in Gummerus, and soon I will be talking with Jenny Colgan, the queen of feel-good literature. And if you have anything you want to ask Jenny, please write your question to the YouTube chat. Ja kerron suomeksi vielä tässä, että Jenny Colganin kirjoja voitte ostaa tämän tapahtuman aikana tarjoushintaan Adlibriksestä ja löydät tarjouslinkin tuolta chatista. And after talking with Jenny, Leena-Stina Kakko from Gummerus will tell us more about upcoming feel-good novels in Finnish. But now, so hello Jenny, warmly welcome, and we're so happy to have you with us today. Thank you so much for meeting us from Scotland. So can you tell us, where are you joining us from?
Hello, Pauliina. Hi, everyone. Yes, well, I'd rather be in Finland, but I am in Edinburgh, and the Edinburgh Festival just finishes today. So everybody, we've had thousands and thousands of shows and millions of people come through. And yes, so they're all going home, so it's quite sad.
How has the summer been in Edinburgh?
Wet, really been very damp and grey. Yeah, I guess, I think a lot of Southern Europe has had a terribly hot summer, but we've had a very grey summer. How's yours been?
Well, today here in Finland, or at least in Helsinki, in southern Finland, it's an incredibly huge storm out there. It's raining and it's super windy. And I think the summer in Finland has been actually quite cold also.
Yes, yeah, ours has been cold, yeah.
So we are here to talk about your books, of course, and your Finnish readers want to know about your writing. But first, let's talk a little bit about your newest series in Finnish, which is called the Muir series. Or how do you pronounce the Muir name? I mean, the Home in a Little Island series.
Yeah, that's pretty good, actually. Muir, yeah. No,
okay, good. So in Finnish, it's known as Koti, pikkusaarella, Home in a Little Island series. In Finnish, we have published the first parts of the series, Suolaisten tuulten saari, The Summer Seaside Kitchen, which tells the story of Flora. And Flora is working and living in London, but because of her work, actually is forced to return to her home in a little island of Muir. And in time, Flora finds love of cooking and opens a cafe called Summer Seaside Kitchen. And the second part, Vuorovetten ranta, The Endless Beach, just came out this summer in Finnish. And also Maailman ääriin, A Very Distant Shore, which both you can find in this inside these same covers. They tell more about Flora and the life of other characters in the island of Muir. How did you come up with the story of Flora?
Well, I had lived overseas with my husband for his job. So we lived in the Netherlands and we lived in France and I lived in America. Then I moved back to Scotland about 7 or 8 years ago. And so really, which is kind of when I started writing this series. So I think it kind of slightly reflects my own experience of coming back to a country that I left a long time ago, of coming home, effectively.
Tell us more about the island of Muir. It doesn't really exist, right?
Yeah, I think as a writer, you have to be careful. If you're writing about big cities like Edinburgh or Helsinki, then that's one thing. But if you're writing about small places, the people that live in those places don't really like it, especially if you get anything wrong. So it's a kind of mix, really, of a few different islands in Scotland. So we've got Bute on the west coast, which is a beautiful island, and also has a large Syrian community who came from Syria, who settled there. And then we have the Shetlands, which is in the northeast, very close to Norway, to Bergen. And so from there, it's a much more Scandinavian outlook. You know, many of our northeastern islands feel very Scandinavian, have very Scandinavian names. So it's a bit of a mix between the west coast and the high northeast, and kind of geographically it kind of tends towards Scandinavia rather than Ireland.
Tell us about the other characters in the island of Muir. How did you come up, for example, Joel, Flora's former boss and boyfriend?
Yeah, he's a kind of hotshot lawyer, and I kind of like, they always seem to be very, I suppose because lawyers always work in cities, because that's, you know, where the work is. Corporate lawyers, certainly. So I kind of like the idea of taking this kind of stiff, kind of quite buttoned up character and sending him somewhere that to him is very exotic. But of course, the Flora, it's home, you know, she grew up there. It's weird. I was looking at, I can't even remember today, Instagram or something. And someone had posted pictures and said, oh, the view from where I'm staying, I can't believe it. And it was just like a kind of little Scottish town. It wasn't, you know, to us, it would not be at all surprising, but obviously they'd come from somewhere else, and it was very exotic. So I like the dynamic of him finding it all very new. And then for Flora, it's kind of very familiar, but she sees it in a new way, and she sees it through different eyes, I think.
How about yourself? Do you as well come from a small town?
I do. I don't come from an island, but I come from a small fishing town on the west coast. Well, it was a fishing town, and then it now has an airport, so it's kind of an airport town, but it's a small town. But it's quite funny because when I was young, I really wanted to leave, and I wanted to go and see the world, and I didn't. You know, I find living in a small community where everybody knows you quite frustrating. And my mother taught at the local school, so, you know, she really did know everyone. It's that old line about everybody dies famous in a small town, you know. And then when I came back, we now live in a different village, but still a village. I really liked that for my family, for my children, that everybody knew them and everybody knew where everybody was. I liked it. So you change as you get older.
That's true. So in addition to the Muir series, we have translated in Finnish also the Little Beach Street Bakery series and the series about Kirrin Thief. But now you have to help me with the pronunciation. How do you pronounce this place in Scotland?
No, you're really good, Kirrin Thief. That's very good.
It is.
That is a lot better than my Finnish.
Well, Kirjojen Thief series in Finnish is known as Kirjakauppa Skotlannissa sarja. So in these three series that we have in Finnish, you have written about these lovable, relatable female main characters, Flora, Polly, and Nina. Do you have a favorite character?
Yeah, I'm really fond of Polly, actually. She's so practical. She's really good at just getting on with things and kind of getting her head down, and she works hard. So yeah, I'm very fond of Polly, actually. We follow Polly for quite a long time, really, for, I think I've been writing Polly on and off for about 10 years. So we see she grows older in the book. She doesn't stay where she is. So, you know, I feel like I know her family, and I know her quite well. And I have in the new series, the Muir series, I have a real soft spot for Lorna, the head teacher at the primary school, just because I think she's dealt a very difficult hand that she has to deal with.
That's true. So now I'm going to ask you some questions from your readers. They wanted to know, for example, when did your career as a writer begin?
Oh, back in the last century. Oh my goodness, I'm so old. So yeah, I was young and I was in London, and I wrote my first novel in about 1998, and we sold it in 1999. It came out on the 2nd of January 2000, so I kind of clipped in with the new millennium. So it was such an exciting, I remember it as being such an exciting time, you know, to have all of this happen. But what's the lovely thing is, just as time's gone on, then in different, you know, we've gone to different countries now. We're in, I think, about 26 different countries, and it's such a thrill to meet a new territory, really, because Finland, I mean, you're publishing really quickly, you're publishing fast, but it's just so nice to see these books come along and in a different language. And then I'm very lucky, I get to travel. I think I'm down for Helsinki quite soon, and it's really, really pleasing as a writer to be translated. It feels like a real honor, really. So it's really exciting for me to, you know, even though I've been doing it for so long, it's a real thrill to say, hello, Finland, this is brilliant. We just sold our very first translation into Azerbaijan. Oh. So I know, I've said, oh, I would love to come to Azerbaijan. I bet it's fascinating. So into Azerbaijani, there we go. So it's a real treat.
So how was the start of your career in the beginning of 2000? Did you get translated soon, or how was it?
I think German was quite fast, but then I think I didn't really, it's so weird, I didn't really think about it then. I was kind of, everything was so exciting, and then I got married, and then I had children, and it was all kind of, you know, and then as the children have grown up, then I've kind of gone to focus back on writing more and to working more, and it's been really kind of lovely to see things kind of start to come together. I think also, it was really quite touching during the pandemic, because to read, a lot of people find my books quite comforting, and I got a lot of mail during the pandemic from people that have found them very useful to read when things felt like it was a bit much, you know. So that's been really nice too, to just hear from people from all over. So that's been, well, there's nothing good about the pandemic, but it was nice if you could feel that it was helping a little bit.
So your readers wanted to know that, did you always know that you want to write feel good as a genre?
That's a good question. It's hard to answer, because genre is something that publishers deal with. So this is your job. It's not really my job. My job is just to tell a story, and if the story is set in space, and sometimes, you know, these aren't, but you know, sometimes things are, or if it's set wherever, I just have a story to tell, you know. And in books, sometimes people get killed and sometimes people get married, but there's not a huge variance in terms of what happens. And so my sense is that no, I certainly didn't. And in fact, feel good as a genre doesn't really exist in English. It's more of an international thing. So in Britain, my genre would be called romantic comedy. And in America, I'm just a novelist, and you know, and so it has been, so genre is something that's put on you from elsewhere. In fact, I have one nice thing that I do like in France. It's called livre doudou, and a doudou is a toy that, or a blanket that a very small child takes to bed. You know, like a comfort blanket.
Yes.
And that's what a doudou is in French. And the genre is called livre doudou. And I love that. Like you just take it to bed. So the answer is no, I don't. And I think if you yourself are writing, or if you want to write, just write whatever the story is to you that feels authentic and the story you want to tell, and let other people, publishers, decide what kind of story it is.
Well, I can understand the French word because your novels leaves a comforting feeling. So is it just something that happens naturally, or do you like think about it when you write, that you want the reader to feel themselves really warm and like everything's going to be okay?
Well, I read a lot as a child, and like a lot of novelists, and you know, there's a certain amount of comfort reading that you do as a child, in terms of you tend to read the same books over and over again, and you like to get a certain kind of sense of a moral and a happy ending. So I think it probably comes from my childhood reading, that things like Little Women or you know, Pippi or whatever, where things turn out all right and it's going to be fine. So I would say it's probably a little bit like that. I don't do it on purpose, but I think there's a bit of that. And then I think naturally I'm quite an optimistic person. You know, in my normal life, I tend to think things will be a bit annoying because life is a bit annoying, but you know, it'll probably be all right. And if it's not all right, worrying about it would have made no difference to the outcome. Do you know what I mean?
Your readers also wanted to know what inspires you when you write, and do you use your own experiences? Yeah,
I mean, I'm lucky because I get to live in Scotland, which is really a very beautiful country, you know, and I live by the water, and there's a lot of birds, and so it's easy to, and then we're also in the city a lot, like I am now, and Edinburgh's famously a very beautiful city. So, you know, you're kind of surrounded by natural inspiration, really, for how you feel about the countryside and the kind of home and the place where you live. And I think living abroad for so much has given me a real sense of what home means, and that's interesting to me. So I guess you do draw on your own personal experience quite a lot.
We had one question in YouTube chat. Where do you get your inspiration to the characters that end up in the book, or are your characters based in some real life persons?
Hi, by the way, thank you for the question. They tend not to be based on real life people. Really, just because people are far more complex than you would want to, you know. But you can get, well, there are two things really. First of all, everybody's family is crazy. I think that's a rule that we can all agree with. So, you know, there's interesting things and interactions between people going on all over the place. But secondly, you know, you can be in a coffee shop and hear a snippet of conversation. You know, I was on a train once, and a bunch of guys that worked for the railway sat down next to me and started discussing there was some backup on why the train was late. And the reason was because they'd had to divert an ancient river over an aqueduct, and that had started dripping. And that ended up inspiring the Kieran Thief series with the train, where they stopped the train, because that was interesting to me. Everything is interesting, you know. I saw two women come in a coffee shop, and you could just tell from the second they walked in that it was a mother and a daughter, and that the mother was not happy, and that the daughter obviously spent her life trying to make the mother happy and could not do that. And in seconds, you know, you see that in seconds. Humans are very good at recognizing relationships. So it's just everywhere, really. You can hear it in the tone of a voice or the way somebody walks across the room that they are interested.
That's so interesting to hear. So how do you create your characters and the background stories for your novels? Someone know.
I normally set them talking. So to begin with, there'll be a lot more characters than will end up in the final book. So I'll put a bunch of people in and see how they go. And then if someone isn't funny or isn't working or just doesn't suit very well, then they can come out, maybe for another time, maybe they're just gone. So it's kind of, you set a whole bunch of tops, like spinning tops, you know, like the toy. So you set everything spinning, and then you try and keep everything going. And then sometimes something just flattens out and it's got to go. And it's really weird, but it becomes obvious fairly soon. You know, I think you can tell if you meet a grown-up, what they were like at school. You know, I think most of us can. You can, it's very, I was standing behind a guy in a shop in London when I was in London. He was very smart, suit, expensive watch, the tie, everything, clearly very successful. And he was choosing a chocolate bar. And I swear it took him 10 minutes. He couldn't decide on the chocolate bar he wanted. And that was the child, you know, that was a 7-year-old choosing it. Oh, should I have that one or that one? And it didn't matter that he had the suit and the tie and the haircut and watch. You know, we're all just 7-year-olds really kind of getting on with it. So I think once you start to picture a character in your head, you can think, yeah, you were always in trouble, or you always had your hand up, or, you know, you were the teacher's favorite. So once you kind of start them going, then the way they behave tends to tell you a lot about the kind of person they are.
So tell us about your daily life as an author. Do you have any kind of writing routines? Do you write every day on a special time, or do you just do it when the inspiration is all right, or how do you? How do you?
No, if you wait for inspiration to strike, you will never finish a book. I can promise you that. No, I write every day. Normally I walk the dogs, I take some exercise, I have some breakfast, and then I settle down about 11ish, and I'll write 2,000 words, maybe a little more than that, have some lunch, and then kind of the earlier I finish, the more time I get to spend, you know, playing the piano or seeing people or whatever. So it's pretty much the same time every day. It's certainly, you know, a word count every day, but I don't know anyone that doesn't do it like that. Some people work first thing in the morning, some people work late at night, although I don't know how anybody works late at night. I am done by the end of the day. Yeah, I tell you what, I got a lot more efficient after I had children and I had to pay for childcare. So every hour I was at my desk, I was paying for it. So I didn't finish by the time, you know, so it just makes you a lot more focused.
That's true. Is there anything you can tell us about what are you working on right now?
Is there anything I can tell you about it? No, it's really fun though. It's Christmassy, I can tell you it's Christmas.
Oh. Sounds nice. Because Lena-Stina will soon tell us more about it, but actually your next upcoming book in Finnish is also a Christmas book.
Oh, yes. I love writing Christmas books. It's such a fun time of year. Although actually this year I kind of don't want to do it because I feel we haven't had enough summer to justify a Christmas. I can't believe summer's finishing and it hasn't started.
I was just going to ask that, do you start planning for Christmas really early, or is it like something you start in November, or do you start?
Yeah, I think it's quite hard to do it in the summertime, and also, you know, you think it's all the smells of Christmas and the things you forget and the songs that come on in the shops. And so yeah, no, I tend to write Christmases from November to about February.
Yeah. So one reader wanted to know that have you ever considered returning to the characters in Cupcake Cafe, such as Rosie Hopkins? These are books that we haven't translated in Finnish.
The Cupcake Cafe was a really long time ago now. And so that would possibly be quite... Oh, and we have some boring rights issues with it, which I won't go into, but one company owns a bit of it and another company owns another bit of it. It's all very boring. And Rosie Hopkins, we would not go back to. I really love Rosie, and I think she's kind of in a good place. I don't think we would go back there and mess with what's going on with Rosie. I think she's fine. Cupcake, though, maybe one day if we can get everything hammered out again. And also never say never, you know.
So also your readers wanted to know what are your recent favorite authors, or would you have some recommendations for us on your favorite recent novels?
What recently? I'm really like you. You'll have to translate the titles if you know them. I loved Yellowface. Which do you have that?
Did you say Yellowfish?
Yellowface.
Yellowface? No, I don't think so.
Which has been a really huge book over here. Tomorrow, the Gabrielle Zevin.
Great! That one we have soon coming up in Finnish in October.
Oh, I just loved it. I thought it was beautiful. Really? I really loved it.
Great.
Over the summer, I read the Visitor The Guest by Emma Cline, which is, I wouldn't say I enjoyed it. It's horrible, but it's really, really good. It's like a thriller. Is it like a thriller? Anyway, it's kind of scary, but it's fantastic. And I'm just trying to think of what else. Goodness, I just read something else. I went, that was brilliant. Oh, it's a book that's not out yet, called by Jenny Colgan. But I'll just tell you the name of the author, Jenny Colgan, Fagan. She writes kind of mystical, strange books about Edinburgh that are a bit supernatural, but not really, and they're fantastic. I think she's wonderful.
Oh, sounds cool. What kind of books do you enjoy reading?
Everything. If it's good, I don't really care about the genre that it's in. I really like nonfiction. I read a lot of polar exploration. I like those books. People having a really bad time on like old ships, that kind of thing. I'll read anything like that. I like political biography. I like audible autobiographies when people read them themselves. I think that's always interesting. I just kind of want to read everything, really. So
So what do you do when you're not writing or reading? You mentioned playing piano, but what kind of, is that your main hobby, or do you have some other hobbies as well?
Yeah, I would say that's my main. I play the harp, but very, very badly. And I sing in a choir, again, not very well. So there's a lot of music, really. And then I see friends. Oh, I'll tell you what else is really good, by the way. Are you publishing the new Zadie Smith?
In Finnish, there are Zadie Smith books. Yeah,
it's fabulous. It's really, really good.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So I like to do that. It's just been festivals, so we've had loads of shows and things, and I'm going to go and meet some writer friends up at the book festival after that. And I like hanging out with my children and going to just whatever, normal stuff, really. Getting my husband to cook, walking the dogs, normal stuff.
So you mentioned cooking. You have included lots of delicious recipes in your books. How do you plan these recipes that end up in, for example, in this suolaisten tunteen saari or some season?
Well, I mean, we have to test them quite a lot before they go in, so that we don't poison anyone. So, so there was a kind of, the kids will get like really sick of it for a week or so. But yeah, I mean, it really came from when the kids were small. We lived in France, and of course, people in France really are quite obsessed with food, and they talk about food a lot. And I was at home, and I found myself wanting to cook things that you couldn't get in France that were Scottish food delicacies, that you couldn't get there. Just food that reminded me of home. So they kind of started there. But I'm not very good, and the whole point about any recipe that I put in a book is that it will be really easy and it will always work. It will always work, because I'm not a good enough cook to, do anything particularly complicated. So that's what I like. Very straightforward scones, some shortbread, a little bread, nice, easy cinnamon rolls. Cinnamon rolls are easy. They take a bit of time, but they're not hard. So that's basically what's behind the recipes.
Well, thank you. Now I have to try them. I've been scared to try them out, but if you convince me that they are easy, then I must also.
Very, very easy.
Tell us something more about your time in France. You have also lived, as you said, in Netherlands, for example. How was your time living abroad?
Yeah, do you know, it's just wherever you go, it's interesting. It's always interesting. And you kind of look at different cultures and you think, okay, well, why don't we do things more like this? And then, of course, then you think, oh, but actually our country does this better than this. And it was just endlessly interesting. I felt lucky for my children that they were able to be small children in a warm country, so that they were outside all the time. And it was very easy to get them ready for school. Whereas now, of course, in Britain, we have school uniform and they have to wear all these special clothes and so on. So I just took different ways of living from every culture, really. And the kind of thing that you assume to be life it isn't. It's just how you do things. It's just how your country does things. And that was really, it seems silly to have to even mention it, but that was really kind of news to me. Like when we went to live in the Netherlands, and in Scotland, you kind of assume that very small children, boys and girls, play together. Then they stop playing together as they get older. And then they come back and play together, or then as teenagers, they want to hang out together. But the Netherlands, no, they don't have that. Maybe in Finland, neither. The children just play with each other all the time. And
I think at some point, maybe girls more with girls and boys more with boys. But it's really interesting.
Everything's different. The expectations are different. Just the way everything is done is different. And of course, France, which is, it's a kind of, it's quite a close country to Britain, but culturally it's very, very different. And that is really, really interesting to live there. There was so much of it I loved. And then there's other bits that you think, well, why do you do it like this? Just smile at people, it's fine. So, I feel lucky, but it is also a kind of thing is when you've lived in a different country, it's quite hard to, then you come back and you still feel a bit strange, and, your children have got strange names and they like weird food, and, so it's interesting. You become a citizen of everywhere, really. But that's also nice, I think.
So you must enjoy traveling now that you are being a translated author.
Oh yeah, it's a real privilege. It's such a privilege. You get to go places you would never go, see things that you wouldn't see. You get, wherever you go, local people that are local like you go, oh, we're going to go and eat here, and you find somewhere you would never have found by yourself. And oh yeah, it's such a treat. It's so fun. So I feel very lucky. I am just waiting to hear. I'm going to go to Quebec in the winter time. It's very exciting. And then I think in the spring, I'm going to Czechia, the Czech Republic.
Oh,
I know. So yes, it is. It's a real bonus in this job. I always work on the airplane, so I don't feel too guilty.
Well, thank you, Jenny. We really hope that we can get you to Finland someday.
Yes.
We're here waiting for you.
You have Moomin cups that I need. There's Moomin crockery I'm missing, so I kind of have to come, really.
Yes. So you've never been to Finland?
I have been to Helsinki. I thought it was amazing, but I want to come back. So please invite me.
You must, and we'll be all here waiting for you when you do that. Well, thank you so much, Jenny. It was a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much. And now we're gonna switch to Finnish, and Leena-Stina from Gummerus will tell us more about upcoming Jenny Colgan books in Finnish. Eli kiitos paljon Jennylle. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet us. Ja seuraavaksi...
I'm going to head off, aren't I? Yes, I am. Right.
Bye-bye.
Gotcha.
Ja Leena-Stiinan kanssa jutellaan siis seuraavaksi siitä, että mitä uutuuksia suomeksi Jenny Colganin ystäville on luvassa. Hei Leena-Stiina, oletko siellä?
Moikka Pauliina, täällä ollaan. Näkyykö kuvaa laisinkaan?
Kameran, jos vielä saat päälle.
Mun mielestä tämä oli, mutta pieni hetki. Nyt on niin, että mä tuun sinne sun viereen. Mulla menee puoli minuuttia, niin mä olen siinä.
Sattui kätevästi, että Leena-Stiina oli aivan lähellä täällä Gummeruksella, eli voidaan ottaa se täältä yhdessä. Ja seuraavaksi Leena-Stiina kertoo meille ensin, että mitä Jenny Colganin uutuuksia saamme lukea seuraavaksi suomeksi, ja sen jälkeen hän kertoo myös muista tulevista Feelgood-suomennoksista. Tervetuloa.
Kiitos ja pahoittelen tätä. Kamerani oli päällä, mutta näkyy pelkkää mustaa, niin onneksi olin lähellä.
Niinpä. Hyvä.
Mutta terve.
Terve, mukava nähdä. Ja oli mukava nähdä Jenny tuolla linjoilla. Aloitetaan Colganista. Kuten taustasta näkyy, meillä on jo ihania Jenny Colganin kirjoja olemassa suomeksi, mutta mitä on luvassa seuraavaksi?
No, sä taisit tuossa äsken jo vähän paljastaakin, että seuraavaksi on tulossa joulukirja. Ja joulukirja on tätä samaa Koti, pikkusaarella sarjaa, 3. osa siinä. Ja kirjan nimi on Joulusuolaisten tuulten saarella. Ja siellä Muren pikkusaarella vietetään hyvin tunnelmallista joulua, mutta päähenkilön Floran maailma ja ajatukset on yhtenä pyörteenä. Hänellä on suuri salaisuus, jota hän ei oikein uskalla kertoa ex-pomolleen ja poikaystävälleen Joelille, koska Joelhan ei pidä mistään yllätyksestä. Ja nyt Floraa kovasti sitä jännittää, että millainen joulusta tulee, tuleeko siitä ihana ja täynnä iloa, vai tuleeko siitä yhtä synkkä kuin Skotlannin talvi. Ja tässä on taas ihania joulureseptejä siellä kirjan lopussa. Ja kirja ilmestyy jo lokakuussa, että pääsee harjoittelemaan niitä reseptejä ja sopivasti virittäytymään joulutunnelmaan. Sitten meillä on ihania uutisia Jennyltä, nimittäin alkaa ensi keväänä huhtikuussa sitten ihan uusi sarja. Tällainen sarja kuin Skotlannin taivaan alla. Ja ensimmäisen kirjan nimi on Ihmeitä kesätaivaalla. Ja tämä on nyt itse asiassa Jennyn ihan uusi kirja myös Briteissä, joka on tänä kesänä siellä ilmestynyt. Ja sijoittuu jälleen pienelle skotlantilaiselle kuvitteelliselle saarelle, mutta ei samalle saarelle kuin mihin tämä Koti, pikkusaarella sarja. Ja siinä päähenkilönä meillä on nuori skotlantilainen naislentäjä, joka on kuin kotonaan siellä korkealla pilvien päällä, mutta sitten tämä elämä maan pinnalla ja ihmissuhteet ja kaikki suuret elämän ratkaisut aiheuttaakin kovasti päänvaivaa. Siellä on ihana kesäromanssi ja sitten tämmöisiä rohkeita tuulia.
Kuulostaa ihanalta. Sä, Leena-Stiina, työskentelet käännetyn kaunokirjallisuuden toimituspäällikkönä. Pystyisitkö kertomaan, että mitä muuta on erityisesti britti-feelgoodin ystäville tiedossa tai jo tullut?
Se on sekä tiedossa että jo tullut. Eli tilanne on erinomainen britti-feelgoodin ystäville. Suosittelisin lämpimästi Heidi Swainia ja hänen vuoden aikakirjojaan. Tässä on nyt juuri kesällä ilmestynyt Onnen resepti, kesäkirja. Heidi Swain on melko uusi tuttavuus suomalaisille lukijoille, mutta on aivan todella suosittu bestselleristi Isossa Britanniassa. Ja hän tosiaan julkaisee kesäkirjoja ja sitten Jennyn tapaan myös joulukirjoja. Ja nämä sijoittuu Englannin maaseudulle. Ne on jokainen itsenäisiä, niistä ei tule varsinaista sarjaa, mutta Swainia sitten lukeva, tarkkasilmäinen lukija saattaa huomata sivuhenkilöitä, jotka esiintyy useammassakin kirjassa. Ja tässä Onnen reseptissä tosiaan päähenkilönä on nuori brittitaustainen nainen, joka on kasvanut Italiassa äitinsä kanssa. Kun äiti kuolee syöpään, niin hän lähtee etsimään juuriaan Englannin maaseudulta ja löytää sieltä iäkkään isoisän ja hyvinkin ränsistyneen hedelmätarhan, mutta kuinkas vain hän on oikeastaan kasvanut tämmöisellä italialaisella maatilalla ja käärii hihansa ja päätyy sitten osaksi myös kylän elämää, kohtaa siellä erilaisia ihmisiä, myös miespuolisia aika monta, ja siinä onkin sitten valinnanvaraa, kenen seurasta se onni löytyy. Ja sitten Heidi Swainin seuraava suomennos on tulossa jo tämän vuoden marraskuussa. Ja siinä Joulun ihmemaa -nimisessä romaanissa on vähän samankaltaisia juonikuvioita, mutta eri maaseudun kylä ja eri päähenkilö. Ja siellä kysymykseksi oikeastaan nousee se, että vaikka tekisi mieli murjottaa ja olla yksin jouluna, niin kannattaakohan se kuitenkaan?
Oi, kuulostaa aivan ihanalta. Mä kuulin, että tulee myös muitakin joulukirjoja. Kertoisitko myös niistä?
Joo, joulukirjathan on hyvin suosittuja, ja niin kuin Jennykin mainitsi, niin voin kuvitella, että niitä on myös ihana kirjoittaa. Ja meillä on tulossa huikean suositun suomalaiskirjailija Ann-Kristin Antellin Puuvilla-tehdas-sarjaan tämmöinen oma jouluosansa nimeltä Loviisan joulu, joka ilmestyy sekä ääni- ja sähkökirjana. Tämmöinen ihan spesiaaliosa marraskuussa. Eli historiallista romantiikkaa jouluisessa Naantalissa 1860-luvulla. Ja tämä kertoo Puuvilla-tehdas-sarjasta tutun Loviisa-tädin varhaisemmista vaiheista. Ja sitten meillä on myös ruotsalaisen Ann-Charlotte Perssonin Sydämellisen joulun resepti, joka itse asiassa viime joulun alla tai joulukuussa ilmestyi tämmöisinä kalenteriluukkuina, eli 1 luku per joulukuun päivä, ja oli todella suosittu äänikirjana silloin, ja nyt me julkaistaan tämä sitten printtinä yksissä kansissa.
Aivan mahtavaa. Joulun ystäviä hemmotellaan.
Joulu on pelastettu.
Kyllä. Kerro hei vielä loppuun parista amerikkalaisesta viihdekirjasta.
Joo, otetaan ensin Lucy Scoren Sinuun en ainakaan rakastu. Tämä on huikea bestseller ollut tuolla Amerikan puolella. Siellä myytiin yli 1 miljoona kirjaa ihan muutamassa kuukaudessa. Ja tämä on nyt myynyt yli 2 miljoonaa kappaletta. Amerikassa käännetään 30 kielelle, ja Lucy Scoren kirjailijan teoksia on myyty yli 10 miljoonaa, eli todella suosittu kirjailija. Ja tämä on trilogian ensimmäinen osa, ilmestynyt nyt tänä kesänä, ja sijoittuu tämmöiseen amerikkalaiseen Knockemoutin pikkukaupunkiin, jossa kahvi on erinomaista ja miehet äärimmäisen komeita. Ja siinä on paljon, voi sanoa, että semmoista nasevaa sanailua ja sitten tunnelma kuumenee vähitellen.
Kuulostaa ihan mahtavalta.
Sitten vielä sokerina pohjalla esittelen aivan erityisen romaanin Taylor Jenkins Reidin Evelyn Hugon 7 aviomiestä. Tämä on ollut maailmanlaajuinen bestseller-ilmiö ja BookTok-historiaa tehnyt hittiromaani. Yli 3 miljoonaa myytyä kirjaa ja yli 2 vuotta ollut yhtä perään tuolla New York Timesin bestseller-listalla. Tämä kertoo Hollywood-ikoni Evelyn Hugosta, jolla on ollut 7 aviomiestä, mutta kuka olikaan hänen suurin rakkautensa? Se selviää, kun lukee tämän hittiromaanin.
Mahtavaa. Kiitos paljon Leena-Stiina ja kiitos kaikille kuulijoille ja katsojille. Ja jos joku tuli kesken tämän tapahtuman kuulolle, niin tiedoksi, että tämä jää tallenteena tuonne Gummeruksen YouTubeen. Ja jos teillä nousi tässä jotain kysyttävää Leena-Stiinalle tai kelle tahansa meiltä Gummerukselta, niin voitte olla yhteydessä aina meihin esimerkiksi Gummeruksen Instan, Facebookin tai TikTok-kanavan kautta, niin me siellä vastaillaan teidän kysymyksiin. Kiitos paljon kaikille ja kivaa illan jatkoa.
Kiitos ja hyvää mieltä kaikille.